Okay, so here we are all set for our Gouda cheese or Gouda cheese or what you call it. And I've just done the milking. I've got all my stuff ready, I think. And slowly old spoon, I'm going to stir with that. And a bit of stuff in here, I'll just get that out. There's so many little seeds that come into the milk when I'm out there because there's seeds all over the place. So you just can't avoid stuff coming into the milk. So I collected milk for 2 days now. It's not the best thing to do, but I just wanted to avoid freezing the milk. So this is a 10 litre or 12, I think it's a 12 litre pot actually. It's about 8 litres of sheep's milk. Beautiful creamy stuff. And we're gonna take it to 28 degrees Celsius. Let's have a look. It's 20, about 20. So I boiled all these things in this pot with the lid on so that it's all sort of more or less sterilized. And see, this is raw milk, so I've just learned recently, I got a beautiful new cheese making book, The Art of Cheese Making, I think it's called. And he says that you really don't need to add any culture because you've got all the microorganisms in there from just the raw milk. And then some say you can add a little bit of mesophilic. You use mesophilic culture. But what he also taught me is that you can use kefir for all cheeses, because kefir has the so-called mesophilic bacteria and the thermophilic bacteria. And the thermophilic bacteria are the ones that like the hotter temperatures, so that they are naturally from the more southern regions of Europe, where the mesophilic bacteria is really mostly used in all cheeses. But see, because there's 38 different strains of bacteria in the kefir, you're going to get all sorts of wonderful things growing in there apart from what you have. So I'm going to add a little bit of kefir. The cat's purring in the background. She's ready for her morning milk. So now we have the 28 degrees, and we're going to add just this tiny bit of kefir. It's really just a tablespoon, I think. That's enough, I think. Turn off the heat. And this is a lovely old, very thick pot, so it's going to keep the temperature really well. And according to the recipe, it's supposed to sit for only 10 minutes, so that's not very long. So we'll put the lid on. And wait for 10 minutes. This is my new cheese making book, which is really inspiring. But today I'm using the old book I've shown you before. That's this one. So now about 12 minutes has passed, and one of my books says 10 minutes, one book says 20 minutes, and another book says an hour of incubation time, but I'm just going with the book I showed you, more or less. Now we're going to add the rennet in some cooled boiled water, and I'm using less. It said for 8 litres of milk, it said half a teaspoon. I use less because it's raw milk and because it's sheep milk. And you have to stir this really well, and you have to sort of go down and up, but this is not very deep, this pot, so you're sort of going to the bottom all the time. And so this is a washed curd cheese, so I'm not actually going to heat the pot when I'm going to heat the curds. I'm going to take the pot down into the sink, and then I'm going to heat some water. I'm going to take off some of the whey and add hot water, and that makes it sort of controls the souring process of the cheese, so it becomes a very mild cheese. So we're going to leave this for an hour or so, but I'm going to check it because usually when I make cheese, the process is really quite fast. So I'm going to check for, if it has a clean cut, I'm going to cut it. So we'll come back in a little while. Put the lid on, close the window, keep it nice and warm. Might just put something on top of this. So now it's been 35 minutes. So let's just see what it looks like. Yeah, I thought so. It's already, see, it's ready to be cut. This beautiful, beautiful clean cut. Very ready. So let's cut it. You have to cut it into 2 centimeter, half an inch. Wait a sec. Half an inch cubes, and an inch is about 2.5 centimeters, so it's about 1 1/4 centimeter. Not precise at all. It's good to remember to go right down to the bottom. Very firm curd. So I'm going to put this into the sink, because now we're going to get ready to stir and to wash the curd. So I've got my pot with this very hot water, and it's been 10 minutes. It's been sitting here for 10 minutes. And now comes the stirring process and the heating process. I'm just going to very, very gently just stir this a little bit. And when I see some big ones, I'll just cut them. And so we're gonna take off some of the whey now. Let's see, compared to cow's milk, there's much less whey in a sheep's milk, in the sheep's milk. So she says take off 1/3 of the whey, and yeah, so how much whey would there be? Well, if this ends up being a 2 kilo cheese, if we're lucky, probably won't, but let's just say there's going to be 2 litres, there's 8 litres here, and there's going to be 2 litres of cheese, so there's 6 litres left, so I have to take off 2 litres of whey. I don't think I can do that really yet. I think I'm going to have to add some hot water first, and you have to make sure it's 80 degrees Celsius. So what I'm going to do, see, this is boiling now. And I just boiled these to make sure they're clean. Oops. So we're gonna be adding it's a bit dangerous, this. Bit dangerous. So that's my idea was, because I haven't done this before this way. I was going to take some, I have cold water over here. And so I'm just going to put this in here, put my glasses on, and just mix it up with the hot and cold. Now this is 70 degrees or less. I probably need to have another one. So we want it 80 degrees. Whoopsie. This is good enough, 75 degrees. So let's just pour some of this in. And the heat is going to help this whey start coming off. And also I started at 28 degrees and we have to work our way all the way up to 37 degrees. So, and she says the first step is to go to 33, but of course my first step would be to go to 30. So we want to go to 30 degrees. So let's just check this now. Because you really don't want to heat this too fast, because that does ruin the cheese. It just ruins it completely. I hope I haven't done that now. That would be terrible. See, this really helps expel the whey. There we go. So it's on 31, so it was a little bit fast. I'm going to take off some of the whey. See if we can take 2 litres off. So actually you're supposed to let this rest. Now it's at 31, so we're going to do this in three lots because we have to heat more than if we start at 30. We're going to just cover this up and let it sit for just 10 minutes or so. So it's been about 5 minutes now. I don't want to wait too long. And let's do some more stirring. Because the thing is, you don't want these to mat together. It's really important they don't mat together. I'm going to add some more water now. So we can heat. I don't want to take away too much more whey because you don't want to just pour the very hot water onto the curds. That's a really bad idea. So I think I have to add some cold water to this. Mixing, I mean, this is too hot. Put some cold water in here. That was better. A little bit more. So I've made all this water 80 degrees. So let's just get this in here. Let's just see what the temperature's like now. I think with sheep's milk you do get a very firm curd very quickly, because there's an old saying, if you want to drinking milk, goat's milk is for drinking milk, cow's milk is for making butter, and sheep's milk is for making cheese. So, okay, we got it up to, we can get it a little bit higher, I think. Just a little bit higher. Okay. So now we're going to take off some of the whey, and the whole idea of taking off, we got the temperature right. The whole idea of taking off the whey is to keep the pH low, pH high. You want to make sure the cheese doesn't get too sour. Because the lactic acid is in this whey. So the next time, we're going to let this rest just for 5 minutes, I think. Because the thing is, you really don't want them to mat together. You want to keep them separated. And you can see that the whey is nice and yellow, so I'm not losing any fat into the whey. Beautiful yellow whey. So we're going to let this sit here and just rest a little bit, and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay, so let's have a look. You see it's matting together. Okay, so let's add the next lot of hot water. Let's see. So I'm sort of doing it a little bit opposite, because you're supposed to take off the whey and then add the water. But I just, because there's so much cheese, I'm doing the opposite really. Okay, we are actually really on 37 now. 38 really. So that's really all we need. So I've taken about 3 liters of the whey off, and of course a part of that was water, so maybe I should take a little bit more off. Every time you try to follow a recipe, or me, you just can't do it. Something always shows up. Now at least we've got the temperature right now, and I think it's looking very nice. It's looking very good. So what she says now is to keep for 15 minutes, so that's, yeah, 15 minutes, 25 past 9. I have to keep stirring just to keep it from matting. It is just so fascinating. I've been fascinated by self-sufficiency ever since I was a big girl, really. Came from living in a flat, in an apartment in a town, and had absolutely no idea about country life. And as I've mentioned in one of my videos, when I was 18, I went to Australia, where I came from, and I went to Australia because my dad was living there, because my mum and dad divorced when I was 7, and we had made some friends who were sheep farmers. It was actually a minister of the church, and his wife and 3 kids, they had become sheep farmers in Australia. So when I went to visit my dad and live with my dad and be with him when I was 18, I went to the farm and completely fell in love with farm life. I just loved it so much. And the whole idea of being close to animals and producing food from the land, it's the naturalness. I just love the naturalness. It's so special. And I mean, compared to living a very highly modern life where you buy everything in plastic packets and you drive off in your car, you fill up your car with all this stuff, and it just is so destructive and so uncharming. And although I do it, of course, we buy lots of things. If you can, to some degree, make your own food, it just is I think it's such a gift. Just feels so right and so healthy, and you know you're not stressing the earth, because people have been living like this for thousands of years, producing their own food. We've always done it. So, yeah. So I use grain, as I showed you on the milking video. I use a little bit of grain for the sheep. And it's, I don't know if they really need it, but it actually makes them eat more grass. When you give them a lot of protein, they want to eat more grass also. So it sort of keeps their digestion really active. And it just gives them the extra protein that they might not get in the grass. But see, our animals are not only eating grass, they're eating trees, leaves from the trees and the bark, and lots of herbs. I mean, they're gorging on nettles now. They absolutely love the nettle leaves. So they're getting so many different types of herbs and plants. So there must be lots of incredible things in this. So I'm going to stir this for 10 more minutes. I just reminded myself that because the process has gone faster with the coagulation, you have to make all the times shorter, because everything goes faster apparently with my cheeses. I don't know why. So this is supposed to just, now we've stirred this for 7 minutes. About 7 minutes instead of 15 minutes. And it's going to sit for, it's just going to sit there for 20 minutes to rest. And I've got the cloth up in the thingo, just keeping it warm, and we're going to put it up into the mold in 20 minutes. Okay, so 20 minutes has passed. It's looking really good. So I have already boiled this cloth. So it's just good to have it warm when the cheese goes down into it, but it's not icy cold. I think the recipe said that I should pour off the whey, but you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to scoop these out. And I'm supposed to apply a pressure of 10 kilos onto this cheese straight away. And I know that this pot weighs 6 kilos, and there's about 4 litres of water, of whey in there. Maybe not quite 4 litres. It's more like 3, but that's okay. So it's a matter of keeping it nice and warm. All the time. Put this on here so it's nice and flat. And I have this thing because it's actually not tall enough. So what do we do? What do we do? Okay, I just sawed this off because I needed another one. And I'm not sure which one is best really. You really want to have it as flat as possible. Now on goes the 10 kilos of pressure for 20 minutes. Let's see if we can do this. Oh God. It's not real good at all, but it is 10 kilos. So the whey is coming off nice, really nicely. You really have to stand here. I have to get another sort of a press organized, because if I leave this, it's going to tip and suddenly it's going to go everywhere. Because of the balance, suddenly it starts going one way, then it starts going the other. So anyway, got the press on, and all looks good. Okay, so that's been 20 minutes, and that actually went very well. I'm going to pour this whey out of the pot and into another pot. Because I'm going to make some ricotta with that whey. And now we're going to take the cloth off. Turn the cheese around. And rewrap it. It's good to sort of get the creases out as much as possible. Make this as flat as possible. Doesn't matter. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I've worked out, this is 6 kilos, this pot. And then I have a bucket with 10 litres of water. Because we have to have 20 kilos of pressure now. And on top of that, if I can do this, I might not be able to. I've got 5 kilos. Did you see that? No. Just lift up the camera. This is an old one my husband gave me. Okay, so, and that's going to be, I think, 20 minutes too. So now it's the next day, and I had the 20 kilo press on, which really fell apart during the night, so that was not very smart. But I just left it on and turned the cheese a couple of times during the process. So I was meant to have even more pressure on, but I just couldn't work out how. So that's what I've done, and now I'm supposed to put it in a brine solution, but I will just dry salt it. That's the easiest. So you can see it got quite a little bit crooked, but it'll be okay. It smells lovely. So I'm just going to dry salt this the easiest way. And I'm going to have it in room temperature until it dries. and just keep the flies off it. So let's just see for fun how much it weighs. Now it's not completely finished, but it would just be fun to see. So it's 1.5 kilos approximately. And that's from 7 to 8 litres of sheep's milk. So that's pretty good, I reckon. So there we go. And we'll come back and seal it when it's dry in a few days. So here it is, the cheese, and it's nice and dry on the outside. It's been a couple of days now, and it's quite warm. And when I turn it round, it's sort of a little bit damp underneath. So just a tiny bit damp. So it's ready to be vacuum packed now. And in the next video, I'll show you how I do that. See you, my friend.